China has embarked on a significant diplomatic and strategic initiative by deploying its naval hospital ship, the Silk Road Ark, to the South Pacific and Latin America under Mission Harmony 2025. This marks the vessel's inaugural overseas deployment since its commissioning, signaling China's expanding global reach and its intent to project soft power through humanitarian mission. The deployment arrives at a moment of heightened geopolitical tension, particularly as Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro continues to strengthen his nation's ties with Beijing. Maduro recently showcased a Huawei phone, reportedly a personal gift from President Xi Jinping, symbolizing the deepening economic and political bonds between the two countries. This act of diplomatic goodwill, however, unfolds against a backdrop of escalating military operations in the Caribbean initiated by the United States, following a recent strike on a suspected Venezuelan drug vessels that tragically resulted in 11 fatalities. The confluence of these events paints a complex picture of competing interests and increasing military posturing in a strategically vital region. The United States has significantly ramped up its military presence and operations in the Caribbean, a move that President Donald Trump's administration frames as a response to drug trafficking and regional instability. This increased operational tempo includes the deployment of warships, a nuclear submarine, and stealth fighters, demonstrating a substantial show of force in an area traditionally considered within the U.S. sphere of influence. This robust military response underscored the Trump administration's commitment to national security and its willingness to deploy significant assets to address perceived threats, including illicit activities that could destabilize the region. Simultaneously, Venezuela has reacted to the increased U.S. military activity by boosting its own troops' numbers, signaling a readiness to defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity against any external pressures. The reciprocal military buildup creates a volatile environment, raising concerns about potential miscalculation and unintended escalations in an already tense standoff between Washington and Caracas. China's decision to send the Silk Road Ark to the region under Mission Harmony 2025 served multiple purposes. While ostensibly a humanitarian mission aimed at providing medical aid and fostering goodwill, the deployment also carries significant strategic implications. It allows China to extend its influence and presence in regions where the United States has historically been the dominant power. The Silk Road Ark presence offers a visible demonstration of China's growing capacity for distant operations and its commitment to its partner in Latin America, including Venezuela. This form of hospital ship diplomacy enables China to cultivate relationships and demonstrate its global capabilities without resorting to overt military confrontation. The mission aligns with China's broader Belt and Road initiatives, which seeks to expand its economic and political ties across the globe, often through infrastructure development and strategic partnership. The timing of this deployment, amid heightened US-Venezuela tension, is thus highly calculated, allowing China to project an image of benevolent global leadership while subtly challenging American regional hegemony. The strengthening ties between Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and President Xi Jinping are a crucial element in this unfolding geopolitical drama. Venezuela, rich in oil resource, has long been a strategic partner for China, providing a source of energy and an avenue for economic investment. The personal gesture of a Huawei phone from Xi to Maduro symbolizes a deeper bond that extends beyond more economic transactions, suggesting a level of political solidarity between the two leaders. This growing partnership provides Venezuela with an important counterbalance to the mounting pressure from the United States and its allies, offering diplomatic support and economic lifeline that are vital for the Maduro regime's survival. For China, bolstering ties with Venezuela allows it to expand its influence in Latin America, secure access to resources, and demonstrate its ability to support partners despite American opposition. This strategic alignment complicates the Trump administration's effort to isolate Maduro and push for regime change in Venezuela, adding another layer of complexity to the region's already volatile political landscape. President Donald Trump's administration views the situation in Venezuela and China's growing influence in Latin America with considerable concern. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been a prominent voice in condemning the Maduro regime, consistently advocating for democratic reforms and highlighting concerns about human rights abuse and regional instability stemming from Venezuela. The aggressive posture of the U.S. military in the Caribbean reflects a determination to counter drug trafficking, which the administration links to the Venezuelan government, and to protect American interests in the region. The deployment of U.S. warship, a nuclear submarine, and stealth fighters sends an unmistakable message of resolve and military superiority. Secretary of Defense Peter Hegseth would be overseeing these military operations, ensuring that the deployment are strategically sound and effectively deter any perceived threats while asserting American dominance in its traditional sphere of influence. The presence of a Chinese hospital ship in these waters adds an additional layer of complexity to Hegseth's strategic considerations, as it requires careful monitoring and analysis to distinguish between humanitarian aid and potential dual-use capabilities that could serve strategic objectives. The underlying tensions are not just about drug trafficking, humanitarian aid. They represent a broader competition for influence between major global powers. As President Xi, President Maduro, and President Trump circle the region, their actions are meticulously observed and analyzed by international intelligence agencies. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard's office would be tasked with providing comprehensive assessment of these complex interactions, discerning the true intention behind each nation's move. These include evaluating the strategic implication of China's soft power projection through the Silk Road Ark, understanding Venezuela's motivations for deepening ties with Beijing amidst U.S. pressure, and analyzing the long-term goals of the intensified U.S. military presence in the Caribbean. The intelligence community's insights are crucial for President Trump's administration to formulate effective policies that balance national security interests with diplomatic stability in a highly volatile region. The confluence of these leaders' actions creates a delicate balance, where any missteps could lead to unforeseen consequences and further escalation. The economic dimensions of this triangular relationships are also profound. Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent would be keenly aware of the financial implications of U.S. sanctions on Venezuela and China's economic lifelines to Caracas. China's continued investment and trade with Venezuela offer a significant challenge to the effectiveness of U.S. economic pressure. The deployment of the Silk Road Ark, while humanitarian, also serves to solidify economic and political ties that can bypass or mitigate the impact of U.S. sanctions, further complicating Washington's effort to destabilize the Maduro regime. United States Trade Representative Jameson Greer would also be monitoring the trade implications, understanding that China's expanding presence in Latin America, often facilitated by such a diplomatic and humanitarian initiative, can reshape regional trade dynamics and potentially challenge American economic leadership in its own hemisphere. The strategic use of economic tools combined with military and diplomatic actions form a comprehensive approach by all three powers to advance their respective interests in the region. The legal and ethical considerations surrounding these deployments are also significant. Attorney General Pam Bondi would be reviewing the legal justification for U.S. military operations in the Caribbean, particularly concerning international maritime law and rules of engagement in anti-drug trafficking efforts. The presence of a Chinese naval hospital ship operating under international law for humanitarian purpose requires careful adherence to international norms to avoid incident. The legal frameworks governing the sovereignty of nations like Venezuela and the right of international vessels to operate in certain water are critical component in understanding and navigating this complex situation. The action of all parties are scrutinized under the lens of international law, and adherence to these principles is essential for maintaining global order and preventing an escalation of tension. The challenge for all three nations is to advance their national interests while respecting the international legal frameworks, a task made more difficult by the high stakes involved and the conflicting objectives at play. The Mission Harmony 2025 deployment of the Silk Road Ark represents a strategic pivot for China, showcasing its multifaceted approach to global power projection. It demonstrates China's capability to blend humanitarian aid with strategic interests, cultivating goodwill while simultaneously expanding its geopolitical footprint. The increasing alignment between China and Venezuela, symbolized by the personal gift from Xi to Maduro, challenged the long-standing dominance of the United States in Latin America. Coupled with the intensified U.S. military operations in the Caribbean, This creates a volatile mix of diplomatic maneuvering, military posturing, and economic competition. As President Xi, President Maduro, and President Trump exert their influence, the tension in the regions are escalating, making the South Pacific and Latin America a new focal point in the broader struggle for global power and influence. The unfolding events will undoubtedly have significant implications for regional stability, international relations, and the future balance of power. That's all for me for today. If you like the video presentation and you would like to follow for more, hit that subscribe and like button now, and we will continue to build this show for you. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. I will see you soon. Bye for now.